live in Paris.
Les professeurs sont français.
Les professeurs sont français. The teachers are French.
Les professeurs habitent ici.
Les professeurs habitent ici. So there's a lot of silent consonants in French. You've got to take from certain cues, other places in the sentence, what's going on within a given word. Les, that can only be plural, and the noun professeur, though I can't hear this S directly. It sounds just like the singular. This tells me the number.
Les professeurs habitent ici.
I can't hear anything of the N or the T. It's not linked over. It doesn't color the vowel. But because I deduced from this, so really this vowel, E, is as opposed to le, tells me about the noun and the verb form. And ici, here.
Ils étudient.
Ils étudient. In this case, I'm going to hear that
Il.
normally silent final S, because the following vowel gives it a place to stand. And it's voiced, ils étudient, like most final S's in English are voiced also.
Les étudiants étudient.
Les étudiants. The A is still sounded as a distinct vowel in this environment.
Étudiant.
It's nasalized.
Étudie.
But in this verb form,
Étudie.
all of ENT falls silent. That will block. The students study.
Les professeurs habitent ici.
Les professeurs habitent ici. The teachers live here. Les professeurs habitent ici.
Elles sont étudiantes.
So really, in one sense, French has a lot in common with Irish because it's all about the intricacy of the linking. When do these sounds link over and when not? The written form in French is even less helpful than Irish. Irish is very helpful, showing where the change has happened.
Elles sont étudiantes.
But, as is true of English too, the spelling system is a few centuries out of date in terms of exact representations of letters to audible sounds.
Elles sont étudiantes.
So, listen for the sont verb form. Tells us she, the word that sounds like she is plural, it's plural feminine, they. Sont, they are. Étudiante. And we can hear the T.
Elles sont étudiantes.
The other word was spelled with T, the male form. Spelled with T, but the T was silent. This T is audible because it's got a vowel following it. Étudiante. So this is a nice instructive word to look at. Language is French. Étudiante means student for the meaning there, and it's plural and it's feminine, is what the ending tells me. And if we break this sort of crudely down into syllables, just based on the spelling, not knowing how the word actually sounds, it's going to change a little bit. So this is a first passing through the word to break it into syllables. So our starting point is the written form of the word, and our target is actual speech sounds. I think if we view it as a sequence of changes, it'll make sense. French spelling won't seem as random. So I've taken étudiante, broken it into likely syllables. There might have been one here too, but nowadays there's not. Dion fits in the space of a single syllable. This E is really consonantal, ya, so it's a complex onset there. It's not the case that the D is closing the preceding syllable.
Elles sont étudiantes.
Étudiante. So, and there's another, so a syllable wants to begin with a consonant, and if you've got a cluster, two consonants in contact, put the boundary just in between as a rule. There's exceptions, but that gets you there most of the time. And we're left with four.
Elles sont étudiantes. Sont. Étudiantes.
Étudiante. It's really just three syllables now. So our target structure, brackets for the spoken form. U, front vowel with rounded lips. Dian. And the This one is nasalized. T fits now at the end of that syllable. Étudiante. Or you can get a schwa there, starting a new syllable. I like to use the at sign for the schwa symbol. Étudiante, if needed. In song, there would still be a syllable there for the feminine form. This comes from the Latin tum. Alright. And so tracking this kind of thing from the spelling to what we call the surface form, the way it actually is sounded and heard, one important change is when you have this situation, a vowel and then a nasal before the syllable boundary, this nasal consonant is going to color the vowel and itself drop out. So on is A followed by N in this spelling. They are students, female one.
Honté.
T.
Honté.
Levi says, why is the third person plural verb suffix silent? It looks like it would be pronounced as a nasal vowel. Well, I guess it's never anywhere near the tonic, so an exceptional development there. Good point. Normally in a noun, well, actually it's the regular outcome, right? It's not really aberrant. It just looks like it. You have things like intéressant, étudiant. Where'd I go? The masculine, in contrast, not there. So, no, that's not a good example because of ANT, but a word ending in ENT, here's one. Long means slow. It's the nasal on. Question is, why would it, right, in this case, we have ENT at the end of a word. The underlying N is there and it nasalizes the vowel. But this comes from a Latin form like lentem. The difference being this first syllable was tonic. It would have had a bit more weight on it. Ending was slowly eroded. It was weak. That gives long. But in the case of étudie, plural, the accent would not, right, the tonic syllable would not have been in that suffix. Étudie, they study. It's present tense of study, third person plural. They study. Well, I like to use 3P for the verb. Here, plural with 2 letters, whatever. That inconsistency I'm okay with. This means third person plural subject. They study. This is just not sounded at all, but the accent would have been on this syllable, maybe this one, but never this one. Does that make sense? It's because of its different environment in the input. Lentem. That's a tonic syllable with a nasal coda. So the Latin form that this presupposes, I don't know if it would have existed, because it was studere with the A ending on the stem, meaning to study, but this reflects studiare, based on the noun studium. So this is a sort of reconstructed vulgar Latin, meaning spoken by the people rather than the literary Latin language. But this, ant would have been, sorry, studiant, because it's this ending we're talking about. Studiant. This would have probably been accented on ou.
Les hommes sont étudiants.
Les hommes sont étudiants.
Sont étudiants.
And note that these
Sont.
words, the ones that are linking,
Les hommes sont étudiants.
linking, I mean the final T of the word sont is now sounded because it has a following word to support it, if you like. Note that these are within a phrase. They're all part of the predicate. That's important. The failure to link, I think, will have to do with the nature of the boundary between the words.
Les hommes sont étudiants.
Again, similar to Irish. You get mutation within phrases, at least on nouny things. The men
Les hommes sont étudiants.
are students. Hey Levi, what cognates do you know of this word?
Les.
Les hommes. means the men, it's plural. What was it in Latin? What would be Italian? And Spanish, etc.
Ils a. Ils a.
Meaningless to my eyes.
Elles habitent à Paris.
Ils habitent à Paris. They, female plural, live in Paris. Elles habitent à Paris.
Je suis anglais.
I'm English. Je suis anglais. Right? Here it's lunk.
Je suis anglais.
Linking happens. Suis anglais is together in a phrase. There's a really cool English minimal pair having to do with sound changes depending on syntactic boundary. There are two homophonous sentences in the Earth language known as English. At least when you write them, they look the same. Which player, say it's a basketball team, a little bit of a morbid example, pardon me if that gives you offense, maybe listen away for 30 seconds. Which player did the coach want to shoot? Meaning one implies coach wants player X to shoot a ball, to shoot a basket. And the question is which one? Meaning two, that's derivable from it. Coach wants to shoot player X. So the same verb in different senses, shoot a basket, transitive with the thing being shot, and shoot a person, the person shot by a gun, to shoot player X, and here in two the question is which player is player X. So we sometimes can link want and to, very often we can in English, into wanna. But we can do it in one of these, not the other. If I mean that the coach wants a player to shoot the basket, I don't think I can say wanna there. Let's come at it from number two. Coach wants to shoot player X. Could I say wanna instead of want to? Which player did the coach want to shoot? I think that's right. Yay, French. Good. Awesome. Glad you're here. Uomini. Los hombres. Good. For meaning to, we can use wanna. That's important. But if I mean, so not I want to do anything, but the word wanna can be substituted. Possible here. But if I want a certain player to do the shooting of a shot, say it's the free throw, the question is, who does the coach have in mind for this job? I don't think I can say which player did the coach want to shoot. In that case, there's some sort of boundary there that prevents it. If you, to the extent you agree with that judgment.
Le.
Gabriel et Patricia sont à l'université. One of the simplest ways to do question French is just keep the basic statement word order and rise at the end. Next. Sont à l'université. No, they're not eating at the airport. That didn't make sense. Ils sont étudiants. Ils étudient l'anglais. Much more felicitous. They are students. Ils sont étudiants. All right, when the E has this accent pointing upward, like a plane taking off, going left to right, it's going to be the higher A sound with the mouth less closed than for the other one, the other E vowel. Ils sont étudiants. Here I'm using the default masculine form. There's also a feminine plural that we could use. The girls, les filles. So send me any questions that you've got about French, words or grammar, sounds, all of it. It's one of the ones I'm most familiar with on here. Filles sont. And then for this word students, because girls is inherently feminine, a female noun, The verb's got the adjective. No, I'll get there. The noun for student has to agree with that. Étudiant, that's the stem, and a feminine marker. E, and a plural marker. Les filles sont étudiantes. Or we could link sont étudiantes. So, very good, Levi. And what's the Latin? Hombres. Is the same, in a sense, the same word as French homme. Les hommes, meaning the men. Several centuries old. We can trace it back to Latin and beyond that. And the major standardized Romance daughter languages have reflexes, we call them, those forms that are inherited from the same thing, uomini. So in French and Spanish, the H is just a thing there to, in the written form, to identify the word, but there's no sound attached to it. It's a silent letter. Italian dispenses with H's, except in the verb of have, I think. So the question here, what was the Latin ancestor? We talk about reflex for the outcome and etymon for the outcome of an older word, outcome. And etymon is the old form that modern cognates, or later cognates, derive from. So for me, the story I try telling myself that I'm interested in about French is it fits in the family of the Latin daughter languages, so it has lots of parallels with the sister languages, and also very interesting divergences, parallels with neighboring but not as closely related languages. Okay, welcome back to Language Institute. I'm your verb ally, here to help you with your verb needs, point you to our homepage where you can look into our classes, and we've got lots of learning materials, more and more, including up here in the window, showing you the covers of our books that we've put out. Covers designed by a local Dallas artist. And the languages that we have, let's get that set. We currently teach are conveniently listed here: English, Korean, Spanish, Chinese, French, German, Japanese, Portuguese, and Italian. We're doing a bit of French today to start with. Probably switch over to something else as we go.
De.
So how do you feel about the vowels? Some of them are unlike ones that we know from English. What other languages do you know and are you familiar with? French has a relatively high number. That's in terms of the cross-section of the world's languages. It's rare to find languages with this many distinct vowel sounds.
De train.
De train. Je vais à Berlin, je prends 3 trains. I'm going to Berlin, I'm taking 3 trains. Form is homonym is in that forms are the same word, but that's not plural. But let me show below. Latin hominem, accusative singular. For the plural, we have this in the English phrase ad hominem, to name a logical fallacy or a fallacious line of attack. Attack, there's a horrible metaphor. Okay. Les trains sont en Italie. 3 trains, c'est beaucoup. Makes much more sense. 3 trains, that's a lot. Beaucoup. Shows a nice detail that L, when it was an old Latin L, bellum, when it was after a vowel followed by a consonant or at the end of a word, it would it would vocalize, become an O sound, beo, and then that leveled into bo.
Elles ont 2 chats.
Elles ont 2 chats. See it also in Belgrade, name of the city. All right. Elles ont 2 chats. They, female, have. In French, avoir, to have, is written without H's. Interesting. They write it in the nouns, but not this verb. While in Italian, it's the have verb and nothing else, I think. Right? They have 2 cats. So the ancestral one here, homines for plural. And Italian has shifted it over to, no, this is the regular outcome actually. Es looks like amici plural. Amici it is. Amici to amici. But I think from an S it would also become E, like in the verb, the thou form. So hominem, citation form for most of the Romance ones can be derived from that. What's the nominative singular, Levi? L for Levi. Let's build the paradigm here of this. It's quite an interesting one. And the root, if you recognize what Indo-European root this reflects here. Let me know if I need to embiggen or anything. Du chat.
2 journalistes.
2 journalistes. Ils ont un chat. They have a cat.
On. Un.
Both nasalized, those sounds.
On. Il.
Like that you
On.
still play it after you've pressed the button.
Un.
Lots of repetition if you're having trouble with the sounds.
J'ai 2 voitures.
Feature of Duolingo. J'ai 2 voitures. This would seem to come from the root of convey and weigh. This voiture means cars. I have 2 cars.
Les chats mangent les pizzas.
Les chats. So again, it's just this E sound here rather than U tells me that the noun is plural and therefore the verb also plural. It sounds just like the singular forms. Les chats. Quite interesting that it's one little, it flows so logically from that one little sound difference. The cats eat the pizzas.
Les trains et les voitures.
Les trains et les voitures.
Ils ont.
So, let's hear all these.
Elles ont.
It's meaningless to me.
Ils ont.
They have.
Ils ont.
Meaningless.
Ils sont.
It's an important one.
Ils ont.
Ils ont.
Ils sont.
So that difference is a significant one. Ils sont with a voiceless. They are. Ils ont.
Ils ont.
Z means they have.
2 chiens et un chat.
Le chien. This is that same root as ku in Scottish. Chien. 2 dogs. E is and. From Indo-European eti, beyond. Un chat, 1 cat.
Les chats mangent les pizzas.
Les chats mangent les pizzas. Les chats mangent les pizzas. Les. Où sont les pizzas? Where are the pizzas? Oh non, les chiens mangent les pizzas. Oui, je mange à la gare. Yes, I'm eating at the train station. It's the first one, the dogs. Les journalistes, plural. It's got to match plural. And here it's the same. It's always an S there. Can be other spelling differences in the noun form itself. The dogs.
2.
Les garçons.
Les chiens.
Chien. 1 syllable. Italian only writes the H in some forms of to have. Yeah, that's right. Not even all of them there. Avere. The that strange? In a wonderful way, not judging it negatively. Everything about how I love the so-called irregular things because they're just so interesting. Why would it be the way it is? So I did mention Irish. Let's spend a little time on that today also. Not closely related to Irish Gaelic in terms of its word. Here and there it is. Historically, pretty closely parallel. What does that mean? You know, closely related. But what I see them having in common is the way that they use, or the way that it's like echoes of actual segments, actual sound, consonant and vowel sounds. They echo in sort of indirect, floaty ways across word boundaries. And I'll try to show some of what I mean by that as we go here.
Ismalim an nuachtan nu amshra.
Ismalim anuchtan nu amshara. Sharha. So there doesn't seem to be a penthesis, although there could be. How would you tell? There's an H sound there.
Ismalim an nuachtan nu amshra.
Means modern. Okay, something. New agent. Ismarim is good with me, means I like. Anuchtan, the newspaper, which is modern. And it's singular.
Isbochel jarfach
Isbochel jarfach e. He is a boy who is colorful, positive. Jarfach. A. All right, so the wonderful word order here. Oh, let's go below this. I've sort of finding my own conventions to mark certain grammatical structures of different types. Noun phrases I put in square brackets. Verb phrases in this V-shaped bracket. And that's pretty vague. I mean, there's lots of levels of verb phrases, whatever's convenient, not usually too important. And then prep phrases in these curly ones, depending on the language. It could also be postpositional for other non-French or English. Irish also uses prepositions. Okay, so the structure of this one is Buchal Jarfach A means he is a positive boy. I guess upbeat. I think of an electrical meaning. And the word for word is means be. Buchal, boy. The adjective following is modifying in a phrase with a pause, and then at the end the subject pronoun he in a mutative form. So the structure, Buchal Jarfach, as I said, that's a noun phrase. Subject pronoun is it's a separate noun phrase. And the verb phrase spans the whole sentence. With the subject noun phrase, actually no, never mind. In this case, with the verb is, the predicate coheres instead of being interrupted as in the more common pattern. Abbiamo, we have in Italian, is also H-less, correct? Let me look up this Jarfach, if you could look that up, please, Levi. Or if you just happen to know, Jarfach. Jarva, Jarfa, meaning attested, sure, certain, proved. From Jarv, sure, fixed. OI for Old Irish. Is kokere intach e. Or is it ontach? Intach. Wonderful cook. So, to be a wonderful cook, subject he. A cooker. Latin cocus, ultimately. Ach is a common adjective ending. On yantach.
Tá mar céile foirfe.
Okay, there we have the epentasis of the vowel between liquid and fricative. Foirife.
Tá mar céile foirfe.
Foirife. It sounds more like F-O-R-I-F-E. The I is not meant to be sounded as a distinct vowel there. It shows the quality of this consonant group in between. Because of that quality, I think that determines the sound of the intervening vowel that's not written. And then F-E-A-R, the basic form, man. This mutation keeps letter F, but uses the H to sort of cancel it. It's silent here.
Tá mar céile foirfe.
So mar, my man is my husband, is Kayla with Mer Kayla, that's the phrase, and then far. Perfect. Looks very close to the Latin, and it might be the Celtic cousin of the Latin form. Let's look that up. Ferfe. Avere o-I-a, thank you, excellent. Abbiamo, avete, it's those exceptional first and second plural. Anno, excellent. Ferfe, perfect. My husband is perfect. Now this one, it's another verb that we translate with be in English, but very distinct in Irish, syntactically. Okay, noun phrases first, makes more sense. Merkele, my husband. And here, perfect. Ta is also be in a different aspect, whatever. Some kind of difference. So the being and perfect together form the predicate, and we have the subject noun phrase intervening. Let me mark that maybe with this kind of a thing, showing it's being inserted as if from above, just plop down there, is my feeling about this word order.
Tá páistí iontacha aici.
Tell me if you disagree. Iontacha. Páistí, children. Wonderful, right? So this is the plural form here. Wonderful children are at her means she has. Excellent children. They're delicious.
An bhfuil tú ceolmhar?
Kilwer. MH showing a mutation of the M and means that the lips are not completely sealed. Instead of a M, a W sound.
An bhfuil tú ceolmhar?
It's not M followed by a H. On will to Kilwer. Musical. Are you musical? In the question, a yes no question, English and Irish have effectively the same word order. Musical. I forgot to look up a word. Firfe. Firfe. Adjective. Perfect. Forfen. Well, it could be from same as fuck you. For winati in clothes. The men read a wonderful book. Put the verb first, lien, then the subject. Na fil liawer what was it? Yantach. Lien fir liawer yantach. Read the men book wonderful. Yean. Oh, that's going to clash with my annotation. I'm just going to drop the diacritic. Or let me substitute. Lian nafir liawer yuntoch. So wonderful books, that's a noun phrase. Those tend to cohere. Right. It's rare to get interrupted noun phrases. Lian nafir liawer yuntoch. The verb phrase spans the whole thing, and then the subject is intruding here.
Conas Tom Bailey. Fuerfe.
How's the meal? Perfect. And here too, this type of question, content one, not a yes, no. How, the question word first, then the verb, with this thing prefixed. How is an beile, subject, the food, the meal, rather. Forfe, perfect.
Cowil an Cóta New Hampshire.
Cowil means where is. On Cóta New Hampshire, the modern coach. And BHF showing the lenited F, the one that's weakened to non-existent. No, it's a W sound. Maybe that's the U. No, FH would be silent, but BHF is always a W. Kjolwer, musical. Except for the shoes. Ahawan. Nabroga. Here the root is Indo-European sem for one, I think. But one, something. Nabroga, the shoes.
Léan the Fir Liaur Intach.
Yen fir liawer intach. Men are reading an excellent book.
Tá an Iche Fuerfe.
Ihe firfe. Subject here, the night is perfect.
Is Páiste Darfach é.
All right. With this verb, it's a special kind of syntax. The subject just here, or depending on your perspective, the other ones. Special, and this is quite normal to have verb and complement of the verb cohering there next to each other. He is a wonderful, an excellent child. Positively charged child.
An Scéal Darfach.
The old Irish root, derb. First, derva. This F is a weakening of the B, and then suffixed. So that's reform. It's a derivative of it is modern Irish, MN for modern. Jarfach. Positive. And the boundary historically seems to be there. Deriving a adjective. So positives, the positive story. Scale is a story.
Is Colleen Kjolwer í.
Be a musical girl. She's a musical girl.
An bhfuil áit New Hampshire agad.
New Hampshire agate. Unwill is place. Yeah. Agate. At you. Is there a modern place at you? Means do you have a modern place? Yeah, this must be stories. Little book icon. Collect more crowns. Alright, as you wish. Bird. Okay, I'm at 8. J'étudie. Il étudie. Very same spelling here. Different forms, different meanings. Different forms of the same word. Il étudie. Oh, it went lowercase. J'étudie.
M.
Oops. Gotta look at the ending. J'aime. Tu aimes. J'habite. No S. J'aime. Étudie. Alright, look at the S. Tells you it's gotta be tu. Maybe not too. Well, let's just get through it. Get those crowns. Nous habitons. Right. ONS is for the we form. Ils habitent ici. Nous habitons. Ils habitent. Elle mange. Nous aimons. Nous mangeons. Nous aimons. Elle mange. Nous mangeons. Il travaille. Or elle would also work. Let's go for the shortest I can think of. Elle étudie. Nous aimons. Il mange. Il étudie. Oops, gotta stay in the box. Ils étudient. Je suis. Alright, this verb is exceptional.
Est.
Tu es, il est. They sound
Est.
like the verbs themselves. And suis looks totally different. Je suis un homme. But it's kind of not that different from am, are, is. Elle est française. Tu suis pour. Tu es pour. Je suis. I am. Tu vas. Il va. So an English relative of this one would be invade or evade. From the Latin verb of motion, vadere. Je vais. It would be tu vas. V-A-S. Je vais à New York. Va à l'hôtel, elle va. She goes to the hotel. He is going to the station, il va. J'ai. I have, tu as. J'ai un frère. Tu as une voiture. Do you have a car? Tu as une sœur. Elle a un passeport. Nous sommes. Vous êtes. Ils sont. More forms of to be. Nous sommes ici. Nous sommes à l'école. Ils sont en France. They are in France. We are English. Nous sommes anglais. Ils sont au parc. Elles sont au parc. They're at the park. Nous avons. Vous avez, ils ont. Nous avons un cheval. We have a horse. Elles ont 2 chats. Ils ont 2 voitures. Nous avons un chien. We have a dog. Nous avons. Have pawns. Avons. Ils ont. So, a. G. So, a in the singular. Avons, avait, on. These come from habere of Latin. Avoir, to have. Long E here. Habere. So, certain cases the V is preserved. Avoir reflects directly habere. It's this same word. After a few centuries, 20 centuries of sound changes. Well, not all of them shown by the spelling. OI has shifted to wa. So the H was dropped a long time ago. The B weakened, kind of similar to Irish, to a V sound. A long A generally became this wa, avoir. And the verb forms themselves. A is a single E sound mid-vowel to a, il, a. The singular. Avons, here the V reflects that B in these 2 forms. Vous avez, ils ont. That's in Latin, habeo, habes, habet. I should have done this differently. I'm doing them down in a row. French on the left, that makes more sense. And then Latin. So, on the right are the forms from which they come, more or less. Habemus, long. Let's mark the length with a colon. Habemus, habeo, habes, habet, habetis. But I think this one's short. Habent. And then let's segment off the endings. I think it's habent and not habent. Wiktionary would know. Nous allons, if anyone wants to reassure themselves. Nous allons à Paris. Perhaps I want to. Nous allons. We are going. Let's go ahead. Since it's free here. Conjugation means the inflection. Habeo, habes, habet. Short one here. Habemus, habetis. Long. Habent. So. Avons. This long A here becoming on, or maybe just an on ending generalized across all verbs. This may not be the regular phonetic outcome. Doesn't seem quite right, but here long A would normally become wa if it was stressed, right? The A is generalized, so that's, I suspect, not a regular sound development, but a remodeled verb form here in the history of French, I think. Who knows? Who knows for sure? Hard to know these things. Okay, what are you feeling today, Levi? Why does mus go to on? A very good question. I was kind of hoping someone would ask. So, on. So an A Latin letter A verb goes a bit more regularly. Let's just look at a couple forms. Parabolare. And we're interested in that we form of it. So this is, I don't think, attested in Latin directly. From the word parable from Greek, parabolare, would have been a late Latin or vulgar Latin verb that became French parler, to speak. So a mus ending, we speak, became parlons. And the question Levi asks is, how did mus become un? Well, let's also look at parabolatis. What is this thing doing here? Oh, the accented la. Parabolatis. Ye, you plural speak. What does Z represent? It's really an affricate letter, as it is like the Greek zeta. In German, z, and in Old Standard French, also a z. Parlets. This vowel just syncopated out, and it was in a weak syllable. Parabolats was the outcome, which may have a close parallel in Catalan. Perhaps we should check sometime soon. Same thing happened here. When you lose this vowel between the M and the S, M and S come in contact, they assimilate. N shifts to the dental place, actually pulls back, retracts. Parabolans and parabolats. Parli. Seems a pretty plausible tale to me.
Níl sé sin spéisiúil.
Níl shishin. There, the structure is worth looking at too. The meaning is, this is not special. That is not interesting. Close. Shishin. Interesting that it's a short vowel there. Níl is the verb, not be. Spatial completes it. Interesting. Shishin, written as two words, but think of it more as a unit, means that. Eclectic. And it's the subject plopped down in there. Since special is not a noun, I'm not going to bracket it. And the head of the verb phrase is this verb form here, níl. The negative of ta.
Tá an dá mícheart ag a galín.
Da looks like the word color. The color mícheart looks like uncertain or something. Wrong. Certus from Latin comes to mind with a prefix. So either derived from Latin or the cousin word to it. Irish being in the Celtic family, close to the italic linguistically. Ta and da mícheart. The wrong color. The girl has the wrong color. Do you see the sentence there? So to answer your question very succinctly, Levi, why does mus go to un? Loss of a vowel in a weak word position, unaccented, never accented syllable.
Is fear amidach é.
It's fair amajach e. This D makes me think there was an NT cluster at an older stage, amant, and then an ach adjective ending. He is a man loving, maybe? Silly. Okay, now it looks like amantem from Latin, loving, means silly. You can see that? He's a silly man. Oh, I just noticed, look at this, Mr. Bean. It's got the Irish word for woman. It means Mr. Woman in Irish. Or would it be mutated Mr. Man? Spelled M-Bean. Would be a mutated form of this woman word. Amajach. Let's see where that comes from. Amaidach is the spelling. Amajach. Amaj, fool. Ach, adjective suffix from amet. Woman with supernatural powers. It's foolish woman. Belong that way. Beyond that, we don't know. Amaj. Amajach.
Na buachaillí tradiisiúnta.
Okay, these two are actually all of this is one noun phrase. Simply the boys traditional plural traditionte. That's got to be Latin. And interesting that this this unta has got to be an Irish thing because a Latin NT would have given a D, I believe. Maybe not. Nabuhali, the boys, the traditional boys. Good old-fashioned boys. Not this mutated one, Nabuhali. So, note for the dog, or listen for the dog that doesn't bark in the night. This is a phrase internal B, right? The na is the article with it. It's not mutating. And that's because the na would have been, so this is nominative plural masculine, it would have ended in os. Sindos is the form. After an S, the stop stays unchanged. After historical S coda.
Tá an leabhar mícheart agat.
Story I've built up around that. Ta an leabhar mícheart agat. The wrong book is at you. You have the wrong book. Good to finish the sentence first.
Is béilí tradiisiúnta é.
Verb is, that whole phrase stays together. Subject is it or he is a traditional male.
An bhfuil nuachtan spéisiúil agat.
Spatial meaning interesting. Unwill question of to be. Is an interesting newspaper at you. Do you have interesting newspaper?
Is buachail amadach é.
Subject last there. He is a foolish boy. Is buachal amajach é.
Tá sé sin spéisiúil.
Shin spatial means that, right? Not this. That. Subject in the middle. Ta is spatial. Interesting. Shin spatial.
An bhfuil éadaí tradiisiúnta agat.
Sounds like a school out in space. Space shul. Maybe it's to learn Hebrew. Anwil Adi.
An bhfuil éadaí tradiisiúnta agat.
The tradition to agate. Do you have traditional clothes?
Níl sé sin spéisiúil.
Il shishin spatial. That is not interesting.
Tá an leabhar mícheart agat.
The wrong book. Ta an leabhar mícheart agat. Go ahead and round this one out.
Is málam na nuachtan éifeachtacha.
So this palatalization of the end tells me plural newspapers. Oh well, also the article points in that direction. So form na einfachtacha. Looks like the German einfach. Effective, probably taken from Latin. With this vowel lengthening, the first stop there in the cluster spirantizing, and then a native Irish verb suffix, most likely. The verb adjective deriving suffix. Ismailum means I like. The efficient newspapers. Effective. It's not really about the meaning of the thing, I suppose, but the form. Tradisjunta is also the name of traditional Irish music. Kjol Tradisjunta, or Kjol Trad. Love it. Kjol Trad wife. Cheers to effective newspapers. Reminds me of Charles Foster Kane.
Tom Callul, will too.
Tom call you and will too. Famous. They call you when you're famous. Call you. I am famous. Are you? It's a notable quote. Quotable.
An bia Callul.
Famous. The famous food. Ka is going to be long. Kalyuri. Okay, both L's slender. Kalyuri.
An bia Callul.
Kalyuri.
An bia Callul.
On bie kalyuri.
An bia Callul.
Bie kalyuri.
Tá áit chostasach aige.
To arch hostasach egge. Looks like a costly place. He has an expensive place. So that's got to be from Latin. Constare. Standing firm is the root of the word cost. I say got it. It could be native Celtic too, but it looks just like that Latin word, which is also widespread in Europe. And arch, the head noun, must have been feminine. I think that's my best guess, because mutating the initial k to a ch. So, Ekye, at him there is, means he has an expensive place.
Tá an obair dóianta.
Doyenta. Tan ober, the work, doyenta. Impossible. Work the job. Yeah.
Is scéal éfachtach é.
Efficient. Effective. It is an effective story. What on earth does that mean? Okay, story designed to do a thing. Why not? Is scéal éfachtach é.
An bhfuil fion costasach agat.
Fian means wine. The adjective is with it in its phrase. Is wine expensive at you? Means do you have? Do you have expensive wine? Fian costasach agat.
An bhfuil sé marv.
Will she marav? Is he sick? Dead. Okay. Morbus looks like Indo-European. Morbus, I think. Marv. So Marvin would be a pretty unfortunate name if you were learning Irish. Is a and far. Is kalyule. Kalyule a. Okay, I'm not slender in this one. This is that doubly jointed, syntactically very fascinating sentence type. The hard part to me seems to be producing this when it would be appropriate. I don't get when you would need this type of a structure. Let's gloss the other one we picked out. Need not be. Shishin that. And then spatial interesting. Interesting. That is not interesting. Is a and fair the man. So he, a, and fair the man is called Yula, means call you famous. A. He is a man who is famous. He is a famous man. Which one is the subject? It would be this one, right? And this one, this all coheres. This is the predicate. And fair is called. This is this the verb or is this another homophonous is? Doesn't fion also mean blonde? That would be different. Fion for wine has a long E and single N at the end. And is a Latin borrowing from vinum. Is a and fair is called Yula a. He is a famous man. He is the most famous man. This must be a separate word, is, that just looks like that verb. What's Irish for blonde? Let's find out. Fionn. Oh, like the name Fiona? Is that connected to this? Pale or fair hair. Pale yellow. Unfair hair.
An bia callúil.
The famous food. Okay. So Bia, is it feminine? Then it would be Via. This slender L form agreeing with food versus Kalula. Maybe it was because of the phrase it was in, it meaning most famous. That one looks like a genitive plural to me. That with the final A. Do you know, Levi? What's the form difference? What accounts for this difference in the ending? Kalulia versus Kalula that we saw. Is A and far is Kalula A. What form is, what grammatical information does this here carry? Just don't feel, don't sorry if you don't know. Here to learn all of it.
Tá an béle dó dionta.
Yenta. It is the impossible meal. The meal, rather, subject, middle. The meal is do yanta impossible.
Tá an dúan ala marv.
Of subject here in the middle, the spider. Ta and marav mean spider is dead.
A bhfuil gachrod dó dionta?
Impossible. And gachrud do yenta is everything impossible.
Tá an bia éfachtach.
I've loved every one of the sentences with efachtach. Ta and bia efachtach means the food there, subject in the middle, and bia is effective. Sounds like a weapon was delivered by it, by means of the food. Maybe deviant mind.
Níl sé costasach.
He, she, kostasach. Subject in the middle, it or he. Let's say it. Neil is not. Kostasach, expensive.
Ichimid an shikín marv.
Ichimid is a fusion of verb with the subject. We eat. Oh, just like that Yiddish stuff we saw. And shikin marav, those three words together are the object. The definite. Dead chicken. Yum.
Is Colleen callúlaí?
Okay. Colleen, I feel, is likely a feminine one. And the slender. And this would be all nominative, right? She is a famous girl. So it's the predicate first, be a famous girl, and then the subject last.
An bia callúil.
Bia. Ka long. I. Li. U long. Il. Bia kalul.
An bhfuil sé marmh?
Sé marv. Is he or it dead? Is he dead? Is a and far is Caligula a. Is the most famous. Is Caligula a. Let's just go ahead and look up this Irish word. Because I know we have it in is Diahut, right? No, it's one of the greetings. Dia is Murahut. Here, meaning reduced form of ayas. Meaning is from S to B. Okay, this unites these as a single word. Used to introduce the comparative superlative form of adjective. Anbuchal is mo, the bigger boy, the biggest. So that's fascinating. The boy, I think it's relative. The boy who is big, the big one, very like Chinese actually. Is mo anbuchal na shemus. Shemus is a shemus. Okay, is mo anbuchal na shemus. This is interesting that it's an is construction, but the subject is in the middle. Huh. Funny stuff. Is a and far is Caligula a. He is the man who is the most famous. He's the most famous man. Most famousest man. That's fascinating. So let's try to. This is a verb. Historically, this makes sense. I wonder what it would be with a different person subject. It's just both your what is, the extra is question, and the different endings. Which different endings? Caligula is comparative, most famous. Okay, thank you. The different Caligula endings. Alright, is a. And so, Faris Caligula. This is a also coherent noun phrase chunk, I think. According to the meaning, the most famous man. He. So the question remains why the two he's. The man. Most famous. He. This feels verb phrasey to me here. Faris Caligula. Since the verb is not sentence initial, we know it's got to be some other thing. It can be a subordinate relative construction verb. But if we're saying this is a special comparative superlative adjective form, then that analysis on its own is not quite the right story anymore. It's shifted. It's my stupid scene.
Déanam an cheist.
So the question, I verb, I make, yeah, I make the question. This looks like difficult. Or I make the difficult question. I think I like the first better. Do the difficult question. Okay, got it.
Léim an nuachtan idirnáisiúnta.
That's what I was trying to think of. For international, we see the old Latin. Maybe this prefix is Celtic, but it would be related to Latin. Inter, with an NT cluster, fuse the N and T fusing into a D, like happened in Japanese too. Idirnáisiúnta. Yayim together, I read, fused form. Anuchtan idirnáisiúnta, the international Newspaper.
Léal sin na nuachtáin Iacra.
She reads difficult newspapers.
Tá sí scanrithe.
Scanria. Subject intervening there. She is scared.
Ichim le mo chláán go minic.
So with mo before it, clon mutates to chlon. Gominic. I eat with my children often. Yeah.
Tá sé sin deacair.
Shinjakar. That is difficult.
Tá an páiste scanrithe.
So, subject in the middle, the child, and posture is scared. And scanrihe. Tá posture scanrihe.
An scríban tú go minic.
Onschriven to Gominic. So, question initial particle here before the verb. Do you write often? How would it sound to you, Levi, if I left out the go? Onschriven to minic?
Scríban an túdar leabhar idirnáisiúnta.
Schreven an toederjouwer internationaal. The author, subject there, an toeder, the T belongs to the word an historically, from syndos. And ouder, same source I think as our author from Latin. And then ljouwer internationaal, singular, is the object. He writes, schreven, international books. Singular, as I noted there. It should be superlative. Comparative is with nius mole. This one tells me that is the form we're on. Use introduce comparative / superlative. Wuchel ismo, the bigger or the biggest boy, according to this. Copula does not exist in the imperative and does not have a nominal form analogous to the verbal noun. So much fascinating stuff with Irish, no end of it. An international book. Yeah, this one makes me think plural, but there's no I at the end in that last syllable of ljouwer.
Is fearr idirnáisiúnta mé.
Subject at the end, I am fear internationalte, an international man.
Rihann sí leis go minic.
Richen. Subject she means she. Runs with him, I think. Leis. Gominic often.
Tá an madra scanrithe.
The dog, an madra, not mutated. It is scanrihe, scared.
Déanam an cheist Iacr.
Jinim an cheist Iacr. I do the difficult question. Cheist, I think. Cheist is, I think, from Latin. A lot of the time, adverbs, gominic, golua, need to have the go. Maybe it makes it more adverby. Not sure, but it sounds weird without the go. It's my intuition there too, for what it's worth.
Scríban an túdar leabhar idirnáisiúnta.
Thank you for answering that. Ontholder, Ljouwer, international. The same one I missed. The author writes just a single one. An international book. How about a spot of Arabic? Speaking of verb initial languages, these might be instructive to contrast. Compare back to back. Are you? And we'll get some questions too.
أنت دكتور أردني يا سام.
أنت دكتور. Let's blow this up a bit.
أنت
you دكتور أردني, a Jordanian doctor. يا Sam. Are you? No, it's telling me you are a Jordanian doctor, Sam. Yes, Sam.
هل أنت مغربية يا سامية؟
That hell particle. Oh, you know what that looks like? The Semitic ancestor. The one that gives El of Arabic and Ha in Hebrew was a hal. I wonder if this is the same word, a different function, or if it's just a coincidence.
هل أنت مغربية يا سامية؟ مغربية. مغربية.
It's interesting, Morocco, but yeah, I don't think those words are related. Yeah, Samia.
سامية.
Are you? مغربية.
مغربية. مغربية.
The brother. Samia, are you Moroccan? Samia.
هل أنت مهندس مغربي يا عمر؟
Nice. I can do it without listening one time.
مهندس. هل أنت مهندس مغربي يا عمر؟
So I think of Levi's good mnemonic, Mohandas K. Gandhi. Just coincidence that those sound kind of alike, but why does his name mean engineer?
مهندس.
Mohandas is not what the name is. Just words that happen to look like. This one looks like a
مغربي.
bear snout.
مغربي.
Yeah, okay.
مغربي.
مغربي. The right half
مغربي.
of this word looks like a snarling bear.
مغربي.
See that?
مغربي. مغربي.
One eye and the other. Snarling bear emoji. Grab those. No. So ma and then a ra. How do I get that? G apostrophe. Lovely. And then how do I mark the vowels? Let's go back to ma and I'll put the fetha. Okay, just click this button next to the aleph one. This face looks like a snarling fox or a bear.
مهندس.
Not so much in this font, but here. Very little in this font.
مهندس. مهندس.
Okay.
مهندس.
So here's the question. هل أنت are you an engineer مغربية يا عمر? Are you a Moroccan engineer? The name is Omar.
هل أنت في باريس يا جورج؟
هل أنت في باريس يا جورج.
هل أنت في باريس يا جورج؟
Are you? Oh, you know what? This hel could be the copula, the old one. It's not used in an indicative in a statement. And it makes sense that it could also. Well, could the same word be both copula and article?
هل أنت في باريس يا جورج؟
في the
أنت.
preposition, the full form. Are you في باريس in Paris? يا جورج, yeah, used to address someone. With oh George, we could say.
هل أنت مهندسة أردنية يا أروى؟
أروى, so the person we're talking to. Name them أروى. هل أنت
مهندسة
أردنية يا what was it again? أروى.
هل أنت مهندسة أردنية يا أروى؟
أروى, because R darkens it. Like how they flipped the question mark. Oh yeah, indeed. See, it's a different question mark with its back to the sentence. Good one. It makes sense to, yeah,
أروى.
make the thing match the line in which, like the direction of the line in which you're reading. So Boosterfeeden writing, which we used to do with the Futhark with runes, right? One line one way, then switch to the other direction for the next line, back and forth, like you're plowing a field, which was done for early Greek as well. I think most of the early scripts, the letters, I think hieroglyphs did too, would just change direction to face the eye as it came along through the line. Something that they didn't rotate that way when they introduced it into Arabic writing was the Indian number system. So when you get to those, they're read backwards within Arabic. So they look the same, they strike the eye the same as ours. Quite fascinatingly, I think. Although they have two sets. They have the modern 1, 2, 3, these guys, characters, as well as their older Arabic numerals. But they're the same rules, I think, for same rules of order. Something really weird to have those different. So here, hal anti, are you female? Jordanian, Urduniya, and Muhandisa, engineer. And the name is Arwa.
أنت من بيروت يا سامية.
أنت من بيروت يا سامية. Okay, weird thing to tell a person. If they have amnesia, you are from min, preposition, Beirut. Samia is the name.
أنت دكتورة يا ريم.
أنت دكتورة يا ريم. A new name.
ريم.
You are a doctor, Reem. Snap out of that amnesia. You've got patience.
أنت دكتورة وأستاذة يا ريم.
أنت دكتورة.
أنت
دكتورة.
أنت دكتورة وأستاذة يا ريم. وأستاذة يا ريم.
You are a doctor and a professor, Reem. The pressure mounts for this poor amnesiac.
أنت دكتورة وأستاذة يا ريم. أنت في بيروت يا سامية.
أنت في بيروت يا سامية. سامية.
أنت في بيروت يا سامية.
سامية. أنت في, you are in, في بيروت يا سامية.
أنت في بيروت يا جورج.
أنت في بيروت يا جورج. You are in Beirut, George.
هل أنت دكتورة مغربية يا سامية؟
هل أنت دكتورة مغربية يا سامية؟
هل أنت دكتورة مغربية يا سامية؟
Are you Moroccan? Are you the Moroccan doc? Samia?
أنت معلم أردني يا عمر.
أنت معلم أردنية يا عمر. You are أردنية, Jordanian معلم teacher. This has that same
معلم
snout look too on the right.
معلم
Teacher يا عمر.
هل أنت دكتورة أردنية يا سامية؟
هل أنت دكتورة أردنية يا سامية؟ Are you
يا
أنت دكتورة أردنية? Are you a Jordanian Dr. Samia?
هل أنت أردنية يا ريم؟
هل أنت أردنية يا ريم؟ Are you Jordanian ريم؟
هل أنت مترجم مغربي يا جورج؟
هل أنت
مترجم مغربي
مغربي يا جورج؟ Are you a Moroccan translator, George? Are you Moroccan, Ali? هل أنت مغربي يا علي? That's a G L Y. يلي. هل أنت مغربي يا علي? You are Jordanian Dr. Sam. أنتِ Sam, is that male or female? Let's do female. No, let's do male. I think Sam must be male in this course. Not in this course, but in this course. أنت أردني. Oh, أنت دكتور أردني. أنت دكتور أردن. So let's type A R D أردني. Yeah, Sam. Cool. Okay, Levi asks, wait, so the numbers were designed for left to right in India, and they didn't flip in Arabic, so we in English used them in the original direction. Yeah, that's right. Well, they did probably come to us through the medium of Arabic. Of course, it would be, at that stage, going from Arabic to using the Latin alphabet would be very odd to switch direction there. Le transport. So the traditional form of this depicts a car much more elegantly, I think. And of course, JWJ to input it. This is traditional. Let's zoom in a bit. This one here is ch, the traditional form for this one.
zu,
Zu, to rent.
租站
Station. Also stand.
出
Go out. Issue. Coming at you. 车 Taxi. 出租车
牛肉、
米饭
饭出租车
出租车。请问这里有出租车站吗？
请问这里有出租车站吗 Excuse me. Are there taxi stops, stands, stations here? Is there a taxi stand here? 出 Okay, let's read them from left. First one means rent. 租
租
stand 站
站
车
车
about 出
出
你想坐什么车？
你想坐什么车 What car do you want to take? We will say. The verb is really sit. You want to sit what car?
我们在哪个站下车？
我们在哪个站下车 At what station will we get out? Which stop do we get off? If you insist. I'm not going to remember, so I'm just going to put that in my notes. 站
站
Remember that precise wording. I mean, the sense is about the same. There's many variant ways you can translate a given phrase.
租
车
车出准
means to permit. 站
站
地铁站在酒店的旁边。
地铁站在酒店的旁边。The subway station. 地铁 earth iron for subway. 在 is a locative verb, tells me place where something is. 酒店 wine store means hotel. And 旁边 is it's the space beside something, is next to the subway station, I should say, is next to the hotel. Rent
租
alcoholic beverage 酒
酒
stand
站出车
请问地铁站在哪儿？
请问地铁站在哪儿 Excuse me, where is the subway station?
我在这儿下车吗？
我在这儿下车吗 HQI KLG 这儿 YYNR Here's one of the X ones HXHU 下 MY 车吗 RSQF
我在这儿下车吗？
我在这儿下车吗 And we'll simplify that with this handy button. Changes quite a bit. 3, 4 of them. 我在这儿下车吗 So, a series of verb phrases. Be in this place. So, being here. 下 get down from the vehicle. 下车 That's a question.
他们想坐出租车去我们的家。
他们想坐出租车去我们的家。So they want
想坐
taxi. Verb phrase 1. 去我们的家 go our house. Verb phrase 2. So we'll say they want to go to our house by taxi. They want to take a taxi to our house. So, I love the variety that you can get. You can transform to get a
坐
good sounding English sentence. Replace one of these verbs with a preposition. We could say go as the main verb and then translate
门
坐 with by. Or we could take as our main verb, taking the taxi, and translate 去 with to.
你要在前面下车。
Chinese, they're both verbs that take objects, transitive verbs. 你要在前面下车. You will, not want, but will is the meaning here. 在前面, out in front. 下车, get off in front. At the front. Yes, I will always let them know, even though I don't know if they get it. My answer should be accepted.
坐出租车去那里贵不贵？
Okay. To go there, 去那里. By taxi is the topic. So it's a verbal subject of a sentence. Going
出坐
is a compound or a sequence, a series of verbs, verb phrases. And the comment part of the sentence means expensive or not expensive. So it's a question, yes or no. Is it expensive to go there by taxi?
我们在哪个站下车？
Okay, this 哪个 is asking a question. 我们在哪个站下车? What stop will we get off at? Or do we?
你要在前面下车。
要在前面下车. We'll get off at the front. You have to get off. 你要 okay, have to.
你要在前面下车。
You. Interesting. Like in the word for where, Levi says, I like the sound of the combination of third tone and the R suffix. I think it sounds neat. 在哪儿 would have it. Where else could you get a third tone in R? Well, plenty of places, I suppose. What do we think of? 孙女 might have it, meaning granddaughter. 孙 for grandparent, no, for grandchild. Also a little bit 一点儿. Good, yeah. Let's do maybe one more or so. Kind of a calm evening. Anything you'd like to see before we call it a night? Maybe we can do a Yiddish too. I'm meaning to fast track it, and it's been a couple days. And then we might do a, what's it called? Esperanto. The United States of America. Die Vereinigten Staaten.
Die Vereinigten Staaten.
Die Vereinigte. Okay, difference there with German. Different form of the adjective, different ending.
Drei.
Vier.
Vier.
Die Vereinigten Staaten.
Die Vereinigte Staaten. And that vowel sounds short. This is one of the rare German words written with a double A, der Staat, die Staaten, for the states. S-T-A-A-T.
Sucht das Nein.
Sucht das Nein.
Az.
What is that? He says that no. Huh. Sucht, he says, cognate with English. No. So this as is pretty interesting. He says as no. Sucht as nein. It says neat. Complementizer, I think we would call this, even though it's not a sentence. Although 9 does have the value of a pro sentence.
Das Ei ist was?
Das Ei ist was? The egg is white. Kimsti fin lite?
Finn.
Oh, Lita. Are you from? Ah, cool. The German has Litauen. Letland for Latvia. Are you from Lithuania? Or are you coming from? Kimsti. Do you come from there?
Dan Tisch is groß.
Dan Tisch, your table, subject, is groß. So, UI. So, your table is big.
Litwaner zijn often lite.
Litwaner zennen oft in Lita. Lithuanians are often in Lithuania.
Is a Litwaner?
Is a Litwaner? Litvei, written with the diphthong A there. Litwaner. Litwaner. Is he Lithuanian?
Ich bin ein Litwaner.
Ich bin
Ich bin a
Litwaner.
Mijn gaber is a Polyak.
Mein Chaber is a Polyak. My friend is Polish, is a Pole.
Babke is from Polen.
Using the noun, so Pole would be a little closer to the original structure.
Babke is from Polen.
Interesting. Written LN, but listen to this.
Babke is from Polen. Babke is from Polen.
It sounds like N and L have switched places to me. Poinal.
Babke is from Polen.
Babka is from Poland. Babka, they want more Slavic sounding. Where and also a little bit. Oh no, that's from Chinese. I thought that was a new one.
Zoekt als is een Japaner, aber wohnt in Polen.
Sucht as. Oh, as would be das. With loss of the D, I think, which has parallels in Scandinavian. I think, if that's correct, if that's really where it comes from. Sucht as. It is a Japaner. Okay. Sucht. This one corresponds, I think, in form as well as in its function to our word that. Or it could be as, right? Also. As, which also gave a Zoe. If that be so. As is a. Is it us?
As
is a
Japaner. So for the complete sentence, I'm going to use these pipes. The complementizer introduces a complete sentence. So let's look up as.
is
as
Let's get a Yiddish keyboard. And just A, Z. Middle German Alze, alternative form of Also, Alas Swa. Yeah, it's the cousin of Azoe, just a differently stressed form for Middle High German. Sucht as is a Japaner. He says he is Japanese. A Japanese person. Aber wohnt in Polen. But he lives in Poland.
Sie sucht, dass sie kommt von Australien.
As sie kommt von Australia. She says that she comes from Australia.
Ich bin ein Litwaner.
Ich bin ein Litwaner.
Von wann kommst du? Die Vereinigten Staaten oder Europa?
Europa. Von wann kommst du? Die Vereinigten Staaten?
Oder
Staaten oder Europa?
von wann kommst du? Die Vereinigten Staaten oder Europa?
Oder Europa. Where are you from? The US or Europe?
Lite ist nicht so groß.
Litte is nicht so groß. Lithuania isn't so big.
Die Vereinigten Staaten.
Die Vereinigten Staaten. Table, dein Tisch is groß. So, the and then a dan. So I want Tisch. No, for shin I have to click it. No, C. Then Tisch, type TIC, is, I'm going to use, oh, I need to click that one. The unmodified aleph is nicht. Sh is CT. Zoi. No, is, oh, it's not, is groß, not nicht. Oi. Like that, groß. Oh no, it's we. It's off there. Groß. What do they want me to type? Capital O for this diphthong. Interesting. German groß. In a sense it is. No, but the writing tells me oi is old enough to be in the spelling. Dein Tisch is groß. Dein, how's that different? Tisch is groß. I think it's just this little character is different. Mein Chaber is a Polyak. Polyak. Mein Chaber. Man. Capital H, BR, spelled in the Hebrew style. Is a Pole. Is a Polyak. Polyak. Man Chaber is a Polyak. Man Chaber is a Polyak. Uh-oh, what happened? It just doesn't like the character anymore. It liked it before. I think I got it right. But I'll just word bank it. Man
Chaver is a.
So I think last one for tonight will be Esperanto. Okay, coming up on a checkpoint, Hannes. Teatro, just like the Italian form. Spelling too.
Hundo ŝiris mian kostumon.
Do shiris mian kostumon. So past tense verb, the dog something, my suit, the dog tore. My costume. Shiris. I don't recognize what this would be from.
La fama kuiristo estas interesa kaj kapabla.
La fama kuiristo. Famous cook estas interesa kaj kapabla. Famous chef is interesting and capable. Oops. Oh, thank you.
Tiu aktoro havas belan kostumon.
Tiu aktoro, that actor, havas, present, has, Belan. A beautiful costume. A beautiful costume on. That yak suffix is pretty rare in English. Seems negative. Yeah. Ik and ak. I don't know about yak, but we have Polak and ak. It's going to be in names mostly. I suppose as far as sound as they're in maniac, but different origin there.
La aktoro rolas kiel juĝisto.
Rolas performs. Interesting. Taking the role as a verb. As a judge, juĝisto, a judge. He plays as a judge. The actor.
Kiel.
Performs as a judge, yeah.
La dancistoj volas kudri siajn proprajn kostumojn.
La dancistoj volas kudri siajn proprajn kostumojn. I recognize everything except kudri. To hide? So, I see it. Do you see where this kudri comes from, Levi? Think of prestigious words to do with sewing you might know in English. La dancistoi, so plural dancers, the dancers. Volas kudri, want to sew. Siajn proprajn kostumojn, their own costumes. Yes, I'm sure they do.
La aktoro rolas kiel juĝisto.
La.
Performs rolas kiel as
Kiel.
Guessing the same thing as corduroy. Good guess. I think that one looks like it means heart of the king. Cœur du roi. I was kind of wondering where corduroy comes from. I haven't bothered to check yet. Corduroy. Corduroy is what it comes from. Is what it's spelled like, rather. Du. But this one, couture, I think, is the model. French for sewing by hand. Haute couture. So first syllable coup, and then second ture. Couture. Coudri.
Aktoroj, iru al la teatro.
You command form, go to the theater. Alla teatro. Actors, go to the theater.
Ĉu vi spektos la dancon en la teatro?
Spectos is a future perspective. Will we watch specti la danzon, the dance, singular, en la teatro, in the theater. Are you? Oh, I'm always doing that V. Are you going? Oh yeah, corduroy. Uncertain, probably from cord and duroy, name of 17th century coarse fabric made in England. Probably not from corde du roi, that would make more sense than heart, cloth of the king, which is unattested in French, where the term for the cloth of the king was velours côtelé. Velour, possibly from corde de soie. Oh, rope of silk or silk-like fabric, named for example, in a 1756 advertisement for clothing fabrics. Serge du soie. One of the coolest things you can see in the etymology section, origin uncertain. Spectos, going to see, they want the dance in the theater. Are you going? V like vous and v in Slavic.
Aktoroj rolas en teatroj.
Rolas, perform. Actors, plural, subject form. Perform in teatroj, in theaters.
Se mi estus aktoro, mi povus roli en teatraĵo.
Se mi, that must be if. Si mi estus actoro, if I were an actor, mi povus roli en teatraĵo. A play. Cool. So they want was if I were. Oops. If I were an actor, I could, mi povus, I could perform in a play, en teatraĵoj. Nice warm play.
En tiu ĉi teatro oni povas spekti dancojn kaj teatraĵojn.
It's on Irish, a two-word deictic here. This, that one. This with chi. In this theater, tiu chi. In tiu ĉi teatro oni povas spekti dancojn kaj teatraĵojn. This oni is interesting.
Oni.
One. And it looks like plural they pronoun in Slavic. They can. In tiu ĉi, in this theater, one can spekti see dances and plays.
Ni spektis teatraĵon en la teatro.
En.
Ni spektis is past, right? Teatraĵon en la teatro. Ni means we saw, spektis, a play en la teatro, in the theater.
En la teatro aktoroj estas pli oftaj ol arkitektoj.
More often than all architects. Oftai, more common. German oft. Actors are more common than architects.
Ilia kuzo estis fama muzikisto.
Yakuzo, their cousin, is a famous, estis was a famous musicisto, musician.
Tiu fama dancisto estas tre lerta.
Glad, happy, skilled. Interesting. Tiu fama dancisto, that famous dancer, estas is very skilled. Lerta. Could it be related to alert? Solerte. Oh, is this one we looked up already? Looks like diligent. Lerta. Yeah, and it's not new here. Okay. Skilled, lerta.
La dancistoj dancas en la teatro.
Dancers dance in the theater.
Mi pretas danci kun tiu fama alta dancisto.
Mi pretas. I'm ready to. Prêt in French. Paratus. Paratum. Prepared. I am ready to. Danci. Kun tiu fama alta dancisto. Tall. With that famous tall dancer.
Ĉu vi spektos la dancon en la teatro?
Ĉu vi spektas la dancon? Spektos Will we see? Will you? Are you going to see? La danzonda dance en la teatro. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Have a good night. See you next time.